In this lesson, we'll learn about clusters and how they can be a great rigging tool in Softimage. It would be great to control the pilot's head. So as he's flying around, he can also look around at his next destination, for instance. Alright, so to have that happen, what we can do is work with clusters. What we'll want to do is tie down the points of the head to a cluster, a specific type of cluster. That way we can control the transformation of those points. So to have this happen, let's go ahead and select our pilot and go to point level, just pressing the T key. What I'll also do is go to the display menu and switch this to wireframe. Alright, the next step is to kind of even up our view so we're viewing more of our side view of the helmet. That way we can go ahead and grab an even amount of points at the top of the helmet. So that looks good. So from there, if we were to go to our main control panel, we can choose select, grow selection. And now we'll evenly start to select the points until we have grabbed all of the points connected to the pilot's head. So let's go ahead and middle click on that selection menu, which will repeat the last tool that we've used in this menu. So we'll just do that a few times until we have managed to grab all of the points we need. Looks like I need to do that once more. Alright, and we could always double check to make sure we have grabbed all of the points we would like to have by simply go ahead and switching our display back to texture decal, hitting the C key to go to our rotate tool, and we can just start to rotate the pilot's head around. Alright, great, so we're controlling all of the points we need. So the next step is to work with a cluster. We'll go to Edit, and you'll find at the center of the menu we have Create Cluster, but this isn't quite going to give us the control we need. Instead, what we want to do is create a cluster with center. What that means is that now that cluster is going to be tied to a null that we can transform to animate the pilot's head. You can't see the null just yet, so let's go back to our display menu and switch that back to wireframe. Alright, so there it is, right at the center of our selection. At this point, we could hit spacebar to go back to our object level and grab the null. Notice its property page that appears. We can use this to start to, let's say, adjust this null so it's ready for animation. So for instance, we can go to the main icon field and set this to a different display. Let's go ahead and work with 3. That's arrow rings. That way we have a good idea of the control's orientation. Now, switching our display back to texture decal, let's go to our size parameter. We'll hold down shift, that way we have more finer control over the size of this object. We'll start to just drag until we have something that is easy to select. So we could always set this to about a value of 1.4. That seems to work well. Now we can close that out. Alright, great. Feel free to also recolor this for selection. Bright colors are always helpful, so we'll go back to our color palette and choose yellow. Alright, now right click to exit that tool. So it looks like everything's fine. Let's go back to our king panel. We have a few values that we can clean up, no problem at all. We'll take care of that, but first, notice the pivot of this object. This head control is not pivoting correctly. So let's go ahead and correct that. We'll hold down the Alt key, we'll drag down in the Y-axis and drag this back in the Z-axis until the pivot is right behind the pilot's neck. So now as we start to rotate this, that's much more accurate. And the pilot affirms by nodding. Alright, great. So I'll go ahead and undo that back to where we were before. Going to the Explorer, I'll show you where this lies in our hierarchy. So with the object selected, let's press the F key, and what you'll see is that this null is actually parented to the object that the cluster was created on. So there's our ship pilot, and there's the null. Okay. Now that would be a good time to go ahead and set neutral pose on this. So I'll go to transform and choose set neutral pose to clean that up. And now this object's ready for animation, and being that it is parented to the ship pilot object, as we go in and select our ship animation control, that head control will follow desirably. Okay, great. So in this lesson we learned about clusters, specifically clusters with center, which can be a great rigging tool. So in this case we used it to control the pilot's head.